Welcome to Fucked Up Fables. If ruining your childhood is something you enjoy, you've come to the right place. Today is our last episode of the year. It's like our Christmas special. It's mine. We're doing things a little bit different here. Plans changed. Obviously, not everybody's here. Titania's eating. Her dinner came late. We're a mess here.
Just an hour late, no big deal.
Yeah, we're fine. We're gonna get this. So, my entire beginning script is now going to be different. It's fine. We're fine. Right. So this is my Christmas episode. I'm not really a fan of Christmas, so I did have a hard time with this, but my soundboarder Jenna, shout out to you, Jenna, gave me the perfect idea, and I believe that you still don't know officially what I'm covering, right? You just know that it's Norse mythology and involves mistletoe, right?
I did not know it involved mistletoe.
Oh yeah. It involves mistletoe. That's what makes it Christmassy. That's what I went with. For anyone who knows Norse mythology, knows the story, they're probably laughing at me right now. Like, this is the most un-Christmas, un-winter story I could possibly find. That's
I feel like mistletoe is going to be ruined for me after this,
though. Quite possibly. So, and I'm going to keep it that way. You're not going to actually know what this story is. I'm just going to get into it. So, my content warning. Death.
There's death in every episode of Fucked Up Fables.
I mean, it's literally
we should get content warnings all the time. We should just have a permanent one. This involves death and or cannibalism and or baby slaughter or
and incest, because since I do a lot of mythology, it's almost always got incest going on with it. So, incest and rape, because gods can't keep their dicks in their pants. I don't know why.
Dear Lord, no, they cannot. And sometimes bitchy wives.
Yeah, no shit. Hera is also
Hera alert.
may or may not contain Hera. This one does not. There's no Hera. She is mentioned, but anyways, you'll see. All right. So I just went with the assumption that everyone viewing this has only seen the Thor movies, and that's as far as I know. I am not an Icelandic speaker, so I can't actually pronounce the names the way they're supposed to be pronounced. The only one I can actually pronounce properly is Odin, which is Othin, because the D symbol that they use for his name is pronounced as a TH, so it's Othin. So there's a little bit of Icelandic pronunciation.
It's kind of like in Tolkien Elvish, how the DH is pronounced like a very soft TH, like at the beginning of the word the, like the.
Yeah, so it's like a really quick...
is.
Yeah. I mean, like, the rune looks like a D, so we say Odin, but like Othin, it's super quick.
So I've been wrong my whole life.
Yeah, they have very
not
hard...
Odin.
Yeah, they have really hard rolling R's, so like in Spanish it's like soft rolling R. Theirs is a very hard rolling R that I cannot do. Which is why I just say Thor and not Thor. I can't even do it. I can't do it.
That makes it sexy, though.
I can't do it. If you're interested, you can find a whole bunch of YouTube videos of Icelandic people actually pronouncing how it's supposed to be done. A lot of the names are pretty similar. Most of them are not, like, totally out there. So I'm using the English pronunciation for all of this. Just so we're clear. Okay, so... All right, so at the center of the cosmos is the mighty tree Yggdrasil. Settled on its branches and roots are the 9 worlds, and then like on the highest and sunniest branch is the world of Asgard, which is home of the Aesir and occasionally the Vanir. So the Vanir actually live in a realm called Vanaheim. And then the other 7 realms, because I just decided to list them all. So if you've seen Thor, some of you are going to sound familiar. That's because the Thor movies and comics take from Norse mythology. So the other 7 realms are Alfheim, which is the bright elves. Jotunheim, the giants, specifically like the frost giants. Midgard, which is the realm of humans. Muspelheim, which is the like chaos world and where the fire giants live. Then you have Nidavellir. Nidavellir, which is where the dwarves are, which is what they have in Infinity Wars. They bring that up. Niflheim is like I just put ice. I guess it's just the one ice. I don't know if that was supposed to be something more, and I forgot it's ice. And then you have Svartalfheim, which are the dark elves. So you have Alfheim, the bright elves, Svartalfheim, the dark elves. Again, sorry for these names. Yeah, I speak English. So the Aesir and Vanir, or the Garog, are the gods in Norse mythology. Can I talk? Gods in
No.
Norse mythology. Jesus Christ. And they are tasked with keeping the giants at bay from throwing the world into utter chaos, which is an event we know as Ragnarok. And spoiler alert, they fail. Just throw that out there. So the ruler of the gods, the Vanir and the Seer, is Odin. Othin. He is the All-Father, and his wife is Frigg. So together they have two sons. They have Baldur and Hodor. Hodor is blind and is the god of cold and darkness. And then his brother Baldur is the most beloved of all of the Aesir and Vanir. He is depicted as a gracious, handsome, and cheerful person to the point that he literally emits light. Which is kind of fitting because he is the Norse god of light, joy, purity, and the sun. So he's like the Norse equivalent of Apollo, except better because Apollo isn't loved by everyone, and Baldur is. I put in here he's the best shiny boy ever. Yeah.
It's hard to hate somebody that glows.
I mean, it is. Like, he literally emits light. Like, he's just everywhere. So, Baldur starts to kind of have these strange dreams. And in these dreams, he starts to see his own death. So it's not really dreams, or more like nightmares of him being killed. And obviously, when you start to, dream of yourself dying, it kind of like makes you depressed and wears on you. So he goes to his dad, Odin, and is like, hey, I got these weird dreams going on. So, unlike some of the other stories I've told and will tell with mythology, like, the Norse take dreams very literally. Like, it's not like ooh, let's find out the meaning behind this, like in the Epic of Gilgamesh, when they're like, oh, these pieces mean you're going to meet your fated one. They're like, nah, man, you had a dream about you dying, you're going to die. They don't fuck around with dreams. So, when Baldur tells him that he's like dreaming of his own death, Odin kind of freaks out, like any father would, because his son is having dreams of his own demise. So he hops on his lucky horse Sleipnir, and he books it to the underworld. And along the way, he like throws on a disguise to not get noticed. I don't know why it matters if he gets noticed or not. It's Odin. I don't know. That's what happens. So
He takes his eye patch and moves it to the other eye. Perfect disguise.
no, he takes off the eye patch, and there's an eye there. That's what it
It's
is.
even creepier.
So, in this is like a little bit of like Norse culture going into this. So the way that they view the afterlife is like a little weird compared to like how we view the afterlife and some other cultures do. So when you die, you go to the underworld. You go to hell. That's where you go. But if you die under certain circumstances, i.e., in battle or combat or fighting, then you have the potential to be taken to Valhalla, which is Odin's Hall of Heroes, to await Ragnarok. So Odin is building an army of the dead, basically, of human souls and other monster souls to fight against the oncoming giant invasion of Ragnarok. And then on the flip side of that, not Frigg, Freya has her own Hall of Heroes. It's called Folkvinger, which is it's the same thing. It's just she has her own. So Freya is like the goddess of beauty, love, and war. So she's like Aphrodite and Ares mixed together. Whereas Frigg is a lot more like Hera. She's like the mother of all magic, sort of thing. So that's why in the Thor movies it's Frigg, not Freya. But yes, so you can either go to hell or you can be potentially taken to Valhalla or Folkvanger. Folkvanger.
It sounds like folk finger.
It's
It,
Folkvanger. So that's the little
folk finger.
yeah. So that's how like the afterlife works there. So he's going to the underworld, which is where most people will end up. But I know that a lot of people know about like Valhalla and stuff, so I wanted to kind of explain that. So, so the largest place, obviously, is the underworld where they house the dead, which is called Hel, Hel, and it is ruled by the goddess Hel, Hel. So this is like in Greek mythology where Hades rules over the underworld. They also call the underworld Hades. It's just what they do. So Odin enters Hel, and he seeks out this seer who I guess lives down there. I guess it's kind of like some people are just forced to live down there in the underworld. And she is known as being the wisest of all creatures. So he gets there, he enters this hall, and it's like this big old grand hall that's like decorated for an event going on. So it's like bright colors everywhere, banquet tables laid out, the whole 9 yards, balloons everywhere, flowers, it's crazy. So I lost my place. Like when you turn your phone sideways and then you go back and you can't figure out where you were. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, anyways. So he's there, sees this festival, yada, yada, yada. So the seer is sleeping. She's like, I don't know. I just assumed like on a table or like on some steps, just like sleeping like an old homeless lady. I don't know. So he wakes her up and is like, hey, what's going on down here? You look like you're about to have a party. And so the seer tells him that they're setting it up and they're waiting for the guest of honor, who is Balder. And that when he dies, they're going to celebrate down there, and starts to kind of like go into how he's going to die and that, it's going to be this horrible thing, yada, yada, yada. And then kind of realizes as she's talking that the person she's talking to is really not handling this news well. And that's when it kind of clicks and she sees through the disguise and realizes, I'm talking to Odin. I'm talking to his dad. So, so Odin, knowing that like not only are like the dreams happening, but like this seer is telling him Baldur's going to die. We've already prepared Hel for his arrival. Like returns home to kind of inform everyone that Baldur's going to die. So he goes to his wife Frigg and tells her this news. And Frigg is like, no child of mine is about to die on my watch. Go figure. So she sets out to visit everything in the cosmos. Living, unliving, material, non-material, every goddamn thing. And all she asks is for an oath for them to not harm Balder. That's all she wants. It's just, a promise that they will not harm her son. And so she goes to everything, does this, returns home, and is like, good news, everybody! I got an oath from everything. Balder's going to be fine. Like, nothing's going to...
Unless Balder does something stupid that gets himself killed.
Well... So, with this good news that, like, nothing can hurt him, they kind of, like, come up with this game. And it's, let's see if this is really true. So, like, the other gods kind of, like, grab random things to chuck at Balder to just see, like, if it will hurt him. Because they all swore an oath not to hurt this god.
I'm gonna chuck this spear!
Yeah, and like, everything that they throw at him just bounces off of him, and he's like, ooh, that barely tickled. Like, I felt nothing. It's like he has this armor of light that prevents stuff from, like, actually hitting him. So, like, people can't hit him. They're throwing, like, rocks and dirt and leaves and spears and weapons, like, all sorts of crazy shit.
Was he always like that, or was that just after the oath?
So that is... The invincibility is specifically after the oath. However, he always emitted light. I just like to imagine that, like, his light kind of became an armor. So it's like this impenetrable armor that he now wears.
Okay.
Yeah. So all of the gods are participating in this, like, game that they have every day, except for two. There are two gods who do not participate in this. Number one is Loki. Good old Loki. So he is the god of fire and mischief. Everyone knows a god of mischief, but he is actually the god of fire. Um, I may one day go through the full story of Loki. I have a lot of feelings about him. His whole relationship with the other gods, because I'm not really going to get super into it, but the gods treat him as much a brother as they do an outsider. And given events that happen and what they know, it doesn't make sense the way that he gets treated throughout it. They kind of do this like back and forth thing, kind of like you see in the movies, where it's like, he is my brother, I love him, but also he does really crappy things, but also I forgive him. Like, it's this weird relationship that all of the gods have with Loki that doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. And Loki gets the shit end of the stick for a lot of stuff. But anyways, so um so Loki is like, this game's all well and good and all, but I really wonder if Frigg got an oath from everything. So stop.
Yeah.
So he like disguises himself. I'm assuming as like some like woman in waiting or something, so that Frigg doesn't get like suspicious. I don't know. And goes up to Frigg to question her, and he's all like, "Did you really get an oath from everything? Like, it's like a hard task to do. How'd you do that? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, everything." And Frigg's like, "Of course, I got an oath from everything. Well, except for one thing." But it's this tiny little plant, so there's nothing that like it can do. So I didn't think it mattered. I mean, come on. Mistletoe?
It's coconut. No,
It's
it's coconut. Coconut is evil. It is awful. It is the bane of mankind. Coconut.
No, it's not coconut, it's mistletoe. Come on. Mistletoe. And so Loki like probably laughs and agrees and is like, "Oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Yada yada yada. What harm could mistletoe do?" And then like excuses himself super quick and sets off to find a mistletoe tree. Which I did not know that mistletoe grew on a tree. I learned a lot about mistletoe from this story. Mistletoe isn't really a tree; it's like a parasitic plant that attaches itself to all sorts of stuff.
Why do we like it? That sounds awful.
I don't know. I don't know. There's like 1,300 different species of mistletoe. It's like insane. But yeah, it's a parasitic plant that like attaches itself to stuff like trees.
That's creepy.
Yep. So he finds this mistletoe tree and he breaks off a branch and then like starts carving it into the shape of a spear. Because he can't just like smack him with it. Like he has to go the extra mile, right?
Yes.
So he returns to the area where like all the gods are playing this game again and are throwing things at Balder, and he approaches the only other god not participating.
I was joking when I said someone throws a spear, by the way. It is really creepy how accurate I was.
You know my story so well. Loki approaches the only other god not participating, which is Balder's brother, Hatter, who is blind, so it makes sense as to why he literally would not participate, because he can't see. So Loki tells him that he like sympathizes with him because it's not fair that Hodor can't partake in this like honor. Like they see it as like an honor to prove that like Baldur is invincible. So like being able to throw things at him, it's I don't understand Norse people. So
I think that means it's an honor.
It's an honor. So when Hodor tells Loki that what he says is true, like he wishes he could participate but he can't, the trickster god makes a deal with him. And he's like, "I will give you this branch and I will help guide your aim, but all you need to do is throw it when I say throw it. And like it'll hit Balder and it's gonna bounce off and you'll have participated and done this." So Hodder does what he says. So he like picks up this branch, thinking it's a branch, but we know it's a spear. And he like lifts his arm. I'm assuming he like lifts his arm up, to like chuck it. That's have the motion. And like Loki like moves him around and is like, here, not there, here, lower a little bit, lean back, yada yada. And then when he gives the signal, Hodor throws this spear of mistletoe. and the spear pierces through Balder, pierces through this shining, invincible armor he has, and he now has a spear sticking out of his chest, and he falls to the ground dead. And everyone is stunned for a moment. Moment of silence. All right.
Then suddenly, pull through that.
And then after this moment of silence, it's like the grief. Like, oh, he's not getting back up. He is dead. We have now lost, like, the greatest god ever. Whatever they see. So, like, their beloved companion's now dead, and they had worked so hard to keep him alive. So when Frigg, like, gathers herself and is not, crying for 7 days over the body of Balder, she doesn't actually do that, I'm just saying. Stop.
I'm not doing anything.
Child,
Stop.
quit moving. Stop. So, Frigg gathers her wits about her and asks for the bravest among them to venture into hell to bargain for the release of Balder's soul so that he can come back. So, Hermod, which is the half-brother of Balder, agrees to take on this task. So, Odin tells Sleipnir to carry Hermod into the underworld, and Hermod sets off on Sleipnir. So while he goes off to do this quest, the rest of the gods of Asgard set about creating this beautiful and lavish funeral to kind of showcase how much Balder meant to everyone. So, like, everyone's chipping in, contributing items to take with him, like, all the whole 9 yards. So Balder's wife, he has a wife. Her name is Nanna. She's not important, other than she's his wife. So she grieves with Frigg, and they're laying the body on this ship because they, like, put them out to sea and everything. So when they start to, like, push the boat out, the boat won't budge because it's so fucking heavy with all of the shit everyone has given that they can't move it. So they send out word to the strongest person in all of the 9 realms, which is a giantess named Hirokin. And she comes to their raid, and I just like to imagine that she's this boss-ass bitch because she rides on a giant wolf and uses poisonous fucking snakes as the reins to control it.
What?
Like, she's a badass bitch. Hirokin. A lot to my own heart.
That's disgusting.
It's not disgust.
But
So I like to imagine that, like, she gets there and, like, barges her way through the gods to the ship and just, like, gives it a tap with her hip or something, and then just, like, yeets the ship off into water.
What?
And then just jumps back on her wolf and is like, peace! And then just leaves. Because that's literally all she's there for, is to put this boat into the water, and she has no problems. So now the ship is in the water, and Nanna, knowing, like, this is it, like, her husband is not coming back, so, like, overwhelmed with this grief that she just fucking dies right there on the spot. Grief is too much, so they are like, well, shit, guess we're gonna have to load you into the boat. So they take her
into the boat
and load her in next to Balder. So Balder and Nanna are now in there. Another thing that they would typically do in Norse culture is, which is, I think they kind of do this in, like, Game of Thrones. I don't really remember with the Khal Drogo and all that. But, like, your horse would also go with you into the afterlife. So his horse that he rode on was also killed and placed inside of this boat so that he would have the horse.
That's sad.
In the afterlife. I know there are a lot of cultures that kind of do that, where it's like your animal companions would go with you when you passed away so that you could have them in the afterlife.
Still sad.
I mean, yes, still sad. I guess I should have put animal death on here.
Animal cruelty.
What if the animal dies first?
Then the human goes with it. If you're going to do it one way, you've got to do it both ways.
Right. Some people, I mean, we still do it, but yeah, some people give, like, funeral rites to animals and stuff so that their soul can be in the afterlife for them when they get there.
Yes, I can do that with Bodhi, and it already happened.
Yep.
Because it's weird.
Okay. So the horse goes in, and then Odin places a ring of his in there as well for, like, his son. And then Thor has this, like, little ceremony where he holds Mjolnir over this flame to make it, like, all sacred and shit, and then takes the flame and tosses it into the fire to set it on fire. So, like, again, when I said Balder is loved by all, literally people from all 9 realms are there to attend this funeral. So giants, elves, dwarves, dark elves, fire giants, chaos beings, everyone is there to mourn his death.
Sorry.
So, funeral happens, going back to Hermond on his quest to the underworld. So he rides for 9 days and nights through utter darkness until he reaches the giant Modgood, who guards the entrance to hell at the river Yule. So this is how I imagine their conversation goes. This is very King Arthur inspired when I wrote this. So Modgood, halt! Who goes there? Hermond. 'Tis I, Hermond, Veneer of Asgard. Modgood. All right, Hermond. What is your quest? Hermond. To find the Holy Grail. I mean, I'm looking for my half-brother Balder. You know, Balder, shiny and amazing. Anyways, he was killed by a spear, which is really weird because nothing was supposed to hurt him. So here I am doing my duty as the best brother ever to find him and plead for his life back. And Modgood is like, do you ever shut up? GTFO, go to hell. So Hermon and Sleipnir enter the underworld, and they seek out the ruler of hell in hell. Hell. That was a lot of hell. So when he finds her, he dismounts, and seated like on the throne where she is, there's like another throne next to her, and on that throne sits Balder, who is kind of like pale and depressed and not shining because he's down in hell, and just really doesn't look anything like himself. And
he's dead. So there's that.
Right. So he's like, I've come to barter for my brother. And Hell says, we can talk about this in the morning. You've had a long journey. Sleep for the night, and then we'll discuss the terms of his release. So Hermond takes her up on the offer, spends the night, recovers. He's ridden 9 days and nights straight. And then in the morning, he goes to her to appeal for his brother's release. So Hel tells him that the only way that she's going to release Balder is if everything living shows their love for him by weeping his loss. So every living creature and being and thing has to cry for Balder. And that's the only way that she'll release his soul back to the land of the living. So Hermond is like, dope! And takes off to Asgard to let them know like what's going on. So Frigg sends out a messenger to every corner of the cosmos asking for them to cry for her son and his death. So from every corner of the cosmos, they all wept the loss of Balder and wished for his return, except for one. Her name was Tok, and she was a giantess. But Tok was secretly Loki in disguise. So when the messenger asked for her to weep, Tok said, let Hel keep what she has, and refused to cry for him.
Why is Loki such a dick? First he killed him.
I will get there. So because of this refusal from Tok, which I don't think counts, but whatever, because of this refusal, Baldur is first forced to stay in hell, depressed and cold, and never being able to go outside and share his happiness or light with anyone else outside of hell again. And that's the story of Baldur.
That's really sad.
So, that's the story of Baldur. He's the best god who was slain by mistletoe and whose death actually sets in motion the events that lead to Ragnarok. So, like, his death is the switch that starts the gears going to power Ragnarok. It's kind of the way that I imagine it. And so I did put in here kind of what Ragnarok encompasses, because if you've just seen the movies, it doesn't, like, really, you don't really get it. So Ragnarok is like the Norse equivalent of the Book of Revelations. So the Vanir and Aesir have a prophecy from like the dawn of time about what Ragnarok is. All of the events will happen, what leads up to it, who's going to die, who kills who. They know every single detail about Ragnarok. It's foretold for forever. So every single god knows. So the start of Ragnarok begins with a great winter that lasts for 3 years and does not end. So it's like 3 consecutive years of winter with no season in between. And then the earth will shake, and it's going to shake so violently that Yggdrasil is shaken, that causes the 9 realms to also shake, throwing them into disarray. They fly all over the place, everything goes bonkers. And when this happens, the great serpent, I'm going to butcher this name, Jormungand, is going to awaken, and its one and only task is to consume the world. So that's what it does, is it starts consuming the world. So it's like, if you've ever seen pictures of the earth and has the serpent circling it, eating its own tail, that's Jormungand. And it is actually a child of Loki's. Loki spawns monsters. Loki spawns monsters.
Apparently.
Yeah. So that will happen. And then as it's consuming the world and the shaking goes on, Fenrir, the giant wolf, who is also Loki's child, will be released from its chains. And Loki will also be released from his chains because he was imprisoned for being a traitor. And then when Loki is released, he will lead the giants into Asgard so that the giants can fight in battle and destroy Asgard. The battle that ensues kills everything. The world is consumed by Jormungand. I just hit my mic, I'm sorry. I got really excited there. And like all that's left is nothing. And that's like the short nitty gritty version of Ragnarok. So Loki, being the little shit starter that he is like constantly pushing this relationship that he has with the gods, and eventually it gets to the point where they can't just like look away, or he can't talk his way out of getting in trouble, and that's what causes him to be bound up and chained and literally has poison dripped on him. It's really fun and great.
No, it's not.
But I don't understand why the gods treat him the way they do, knowing that he's going to be the traitor. Like, you would either do everything in your power to make it not happen, or you would completely ostracize him, because why would you want him to be involved if he's just going to turn around and kill you?
So they knew he was going to be the one to start everything?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Like, is it just because he's a little shit?
I don't know. So the events that like lead to Ragnarok, the things that Loki does to get him into the situations that he does, are like, they start off kind of like this, where he, kind of kills another god. He's the one that creates Mjolnir to be the way that it is. So like he messes with the dwarves, which is what causes the really short shaft for the hammer. He gives birth to a whole bunch of monsters. So Fenrir, Jormungand, he's the mother of Sleipnir. But like, they're monsters, so they don't behave the way they're supposed to. So he kind of gets in trouble for like having them in secret and raising them, and then they kind of like attack people and kill them and eat things, and he kind of gets blamed for it. So it's things like that eventually just lead to him being locked up. I don't remember specifically what it was that he did that caused him to be locked up. I think it was Fenrir attacking somebody and eating them, but I could be wrong. And they clean him up.
All I'm hearing is that everything was just a self-fulfilling prophecy, and had they not done things, it wouldn't. For instance, if they hadn't treated Loki like a piece of shit, or if they would have just killed him off, as soon as they knew he was one to start all this, guess what? Never would have happened. Or with this Boulder guy dreaming of his death, they then do the most stupid thing possible and throw shit at him. And I almost said him, Hera. It's just like, yeah, I totally got to deal with everything except, this one thing. But, like, I'm going to tell people about this one thing in case they want to kill Balder.
Yeah, it's really weird. I know that it's supposed to be like this whole, like, no matter what you do, right or wrong. Like, you can't cheat fate, you can't change destiny, sort of thing.
Not what I'm getting out of it.
And, like, you see it everywhere. Like, just like the whole, like, even just like the whole events of Ragnarok and stuff. Like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And like treating Loki nice or bad doesn't change the fact that he becomes this person. I know that that's what the whole thing is supposed to like ultimately be. Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty much just gonna do a whole bunch of mythology stories from now on. That's okay. It's fine.
Sure it is.
So this is our last holiday episode.
This is our last.
What was our theme for January?
It's gonna be weddings.
Oh crap!
And I'm completely rewriting my mind because I did my poll where I was like, hey, I'm doing mythology. Does everyone want me to stick with Greek or should I do something else? And I think Megan so far is the only one who was like, do something else. I want to hear about something other than Greek myths, which I I will be doing a lot of Greek myths, but I do try to pick stories that like people know about or like, oh yeah, I know that name. That's the dude who fucked his mom or whatever. Oedipus. It's what everyone thinks of. But like,
Yeah.
do you actually know the story of Oedipus or just this, he's the one who loved his mom? That's kind of what I was going to do with those is like pick stories like that people may not fully know. But I'm definitely changing my January story. I'm going to go with Egyptian mythology.
Ooh, I love Egyptian mythology.
So that was my holiday story about Balder. It has nothing to do with winter or the holidays other than the fact that mistletoe is involved. Sorry, not sorry. I'm a Grinch. So if you liked this, you can check out our Facebook group. It's F***CKED Up Fables, Fucked Up Fables. You could check us out on YouTube if you can't, so you can see my awesome sweater. That's the same. It's F***CKED Up Fables. And then we also have an Instagram, which is F'd Up Fables, EFFED Up Fables, where I post a lot of extra content. Next week, we will not have an episode. This is our last official episode of 2020. Thank God.
We made it like 6 whole months.
But we will have an episode next week, and Titania is actually going to do like a fun little. What are you doing?
I think I'm calling it like a blooper episode, and I'm going to pull across the board, including like some of the other bonus side things that we've done, because some shit has happened, and it's really funny to me, so...
Yeah, so it'll be like a little fun, like behind the scenes look at the fact that it takes us 11 minutes to get started, and yeah. Sometimes we have to, yeah. Titania does a lot editing for us. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So we will see you guys in 2021, and our theme is going to be weddings, even though Vi isn't on here in honor of her because she is getting married.
Yay!
Yeah, so we will see you after the new year. Bye.